Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now.
On today's episode of the One Gang Worldwide podcast, we're getting into motorcycle design with Luke Robbins, a young visionary designer whose work has redefined what motorcycles can look like and how they perform. Luke's designs aren't just about style, they're about pushing boundaries and integrating new technology. In today's episode, Luke will share insights into his design process, discuss the challenges of innovating with an established industry, and reveal some of the upcoming trends we might see in the motorcycle world. So let's throttle up and explore the future of motorcycle design with Luke Robbins, right here on the One Gang podcast.
Well, fundamentally, I think artificial intelligence is and will change design, full stop. I think it already is, and I think it's, as it is with all industries, I think companies and people in general are just in this sort of fight or flight mindset and attitude towards it.
Hey, One Gang, if you enjoy the podcast, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can turn notifications on to hear when new episodes are dropped too. Any of your engagement supports the show and helps us book great guests and keeps us going. If you or a friend would make a great guest, hit us up at cyclesworldwide.com or drop a comment. Thank you guys so much.
One Gang Worldwide podcast, brought to you by Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping. Since 1978, Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping has been the trusted name in transporting motorcycles safely across the country. With custom designed pallets and air ride trailers, your bike is secure and protected every step of the way. By choosing Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping, you're supporting a dedicated small business that prioritizes quality and customer satisfaction. Ship with a peace of mind, knowing your motorcycle is in expert hands.
Please visit shippingmymotorcycle.com. That's shippingmymotorcycle.com. And now, back to our show.
Hey, what's up, One Gang? We got a great show for you guys today. We got a young man from the UK, Luke Robbins, who's one of those incredible guys who are in this industry now, designing, creating. This is going to be a real fun podcast. Buckle up because this is going to be very educational and a lot of fun. So, Luke, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you, Luke. So let's start off with the early days. Where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? And what kind of led you into the passion for motorcycles?
Yeah, so born in Cambridge in the UK. I've always grown up with my dad and my godfather having motorbikes. They've always had sports bikes. So my earliest memory is my dad's like riding onto the drive with his yellow Ducati 748.
Nice. That's a great bike.
As far as starting out goes, that's a pretty good bike to be influenced by, I think. So that's still etched into the back of my mind, and I still think it's one of the prettiest bikes of all time.
Agreed.
Yeah, always sort of growing up with those two guys having all sorts of different sports bikes and things, taking me to different shows in the UK. So again, like always sort of just had that influence. My dad bought me a couple of motocross bikes when I was probably about 6 or 7. So I had a couple of little Husqvarna motocross bikes. So again, like cool to get your leg over one and like start tearing up some dirt and having a bit of fun with them. And then beyond that, had a moped at 16 and recently passed my motorcycle license this year.
Congratulations,
one of those,
Freddie. Nice. Congratulations. That's cool.
It's sort of ironic though when you tell people you're a motorcycle designer and you don't have your license. It's kind of a little bit embarrassing. It's like I had to get that one fixed.
Yeah. Luke, how old are you?
26.
26, okay. And is it true in the UK that you have to do step licenses for motorcycles? Like when you first get your license, you could only ride so many cc bike, and then you kind of, as you get more experience, you could move up. Is that still the same?
That's it. Yeah. So I started out with the CVT, which takes up to 125cc. And beyond that, you go to an A2 license, which is up to 400cc. And then you have to take the A1, which is then essentially unrestricted. So yeah, I wanted to just smash them all out. I think also because I'm 6'2", when I looked at
No,
like the bikes that I could get on the A2 license, I was kind of like, they're cool bikes, but I'm too big for them.
right.
It looks like
Too
an
big,
inky
yeah.
bucket. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where, yeah, I just wanted to get through the licenses and actually, yeah, tick that off the list. And now I
Good.
can start going. I'm actually looking at getting myself a bike or two.
Nice. Hey, let me ask you this. Was
That's
there
exciting.
a particular experience, person, or some specific motorcycle? I know you mentioned your dad's Ducati, but was there somebody who really sparked your interest in the design side at a young age? Or what
I'd
was
say-
it that sparked your interest in the design side?
I'd have to say it was my dad. So from a design side, I was more interested in cars, to be honest, until probably my mid-teens. What was cool is my dad had created this folder with me. So when new cars came out, he'd bring me into his room where he'd then printed off like the photos of like just concept cars
cool.
and the sketches and
So
stuff.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, that was where I started. This is probably even like from the age of like 8 or 10. So I'd already start to like articulate my thoughts around design on these cars and what I liked and why I liked them. And from that then started to translate into, my appreciation for design, which again was still more car based. But it was only when I was at university where I thought motorcycle design is the area where I really like to specialize. But
Look,
yeah,
look,
unfortunately,
was there any cars at that time that really you were kind of in love with the design, and why?
absolutely. So my all-time favorite car still is, and always will be, it's the first gen Audi R8. So
R8.
Nice.
the
Nice.
Brabham, the V8 gated manual. So a guy called Walter De Silva was most prominent to designing that, and I think it was one of those cars where I remember when I saw it on Top Gear for the first time, and
Yes.
obviously having gone through this process of trying to articulate my thoughts around design with my dad and having that sort of appreciation, that was the first car where I genuinely felt like it had really been designed. All of the lines made sense, even from the split lines on, the doors and the grills and everything like that. So
Yeah.
and to this day, I still think it's perfect. And there are few cars from a designer's perspective where I would say, that they're perfect, where there's nothing that you'd want to change. And with that car, it's still, it's stunning.
And if it's a car that makes a James Bond film, it's got a pretty good design background.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Iron Man, Tony Stark drove one, and it was in a Transformers film briefly until it got cut in half, which is a sad.
Yes.
Oh,
real,
yeah,
but,
that's
I
right.
forgot
That's
about
right.
that.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. That's right.
But
Did I remember? Yeah.
wicked car.
Wicked car.
I was there, and it's a dream car. So like, I think that's the other thing is, when you see all these modern hype cars and things coming out with stupid horsepower figures, I think it doesn't change like, the way they look to me. And I think, you don't need to go crazy. So to me, it's everything.
Agreed.
It's everything that I want for a supercar career.
Yeah. You'd mentioned university, and I want to get into that. But first, I was curious, what does your mom think about all this?
She's probably not chuffed about the fact that I wanted to do my bike license and get bikes, but my dad's always had them. So obviously, even as us kids were growing up, my dad's always had bikes in and out the carriage and stuff like that. So I'm sure she's probably been for a while, anticipating the fact that some of us might, follow in his steps with that.
Sure.
So
She's
yeah, I
prepared.
think it's sort of inevitable. She sort of just has to try and convince me otherwise, but it's not really working.
No, that's not going to work. It's in your blood, man.
That's
It's in your blood.
But I think the other thing with it as well is I've said to her that, whilst I've done the licenses, I don't want to stop there with the training. So once I get a bike, there's a advanced riders course that you can do with the police,
cool.
which I'm really keen to do. And beyond that, the people that taught me, they do superbike racing. So they travel Europe and they race on the track. So the thing that I'd be quite keen to do is then take a bike on track to, not from a like racer boy type perspective of it, but fundamentally to be able to sort of control a motorcycle at speed in a safe, fundamentally then helps everything to slow down when you're on the road.
Of course.
So
Definitely.
That's an excellent mindset you have. I mean, I think more people should do that. I think what happens is a lot of young kids get on these bikes. They don't realize the power that like a GSX-R 600 or even a 500. I mean, what would the type of power they have for such a light bike, you know, and that's when you get in trouble, is when you don't realize. I think more kids should have these advanced courses provided to them to keep learning, to get better, to ride if you're going to make this, because what's happening is that unfortunately some bikes get into the wrong hands, you know, and because whether the family has money and they just want to satisfy the kid, and then they put this kid who's never really ridden before and they give him a 750 or a 1000 as his first bike. I mean, that's a rocket ship.
100%. I mean, when I was learning, one of the bikes that I rode on, it was a 600cc bike, but I think it had 110 horsepower. And the instructor, he called us into a lay-by, and once it was clear, we had to exit the lay-by and fully crank the throttle and kind of climb the gears. I still remember just the raw feeling of acceleration and power is unlike anything I've experienced in a car. You know, I've been in supercars, and I've been in like a KTM Crossbow, like the track car and things like that. And they're very fast, but compared to then being totally exposed and on the back of a motorcycle, you know, accelerating it, there's just nothing that comes close. So as you say, you know, when you don't put that in the hands of a young person who, you know, wants to impress, you know, it's probably not going to end very well.
Yeah, absolutely. So take us into your time at Coventry. As you were going into it, did you already, you know, have your heart set on design, and did you design your path at school according to that? What did you do there that lent to your career?
With that, I'd obviously been, you know, influenced by my dad and had that growing appreciation for design. But then I was sort of at this position where I didn't really know how to translate that into a career. And initially I wanted to be an architect. So I actually loved architecture, but I looked at the degrees. It was a 7-year degree. And my understanding at the time was, at the end of that, you're not guaranteed to become a licensed architect, because it depends on the number of people that retire or lose their licenses. So I thought, well, you know, a 7-year degree to then not necessarily achieve the career, you know, you want to be pursuing it, it kind of seems illogical to me. So the passion for cars was always there, as well as the bikes. And then that's where I just happened to be stumbling around on the internet, and I found that there was this place called Coventry that had a course for car design. So I was fortunate at the time, because I was quite young as well. I was 14 when I found this. So from the age of 14, I was then able to pick my GCSE courses around that. So I then, you know, was able to pick design and start to like go in that direction. And in terms of Coventry as well, in the UK, you've only really got Coventry or Swansea for car design. So it's quite a niche and it's quite specialized. So I always knew from the beginning that Coventry was the place I wanted to go to. So I was, quite grateful that I got the chance.
Luke,
so you were like a 13-year-old kid. So you were like 12 or 13 when you were thinking you wanted to be an architect?
Pretty much, yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. You know, everyone has those childhood sort of dreams, you know, and obviously like before then, everyone, you know, wants to be a racing car driver, all those kind of cool things as well. But I think from that age, I was starting to, appreciate, you know, what design was. And also I think my mum's dad, my granddad, I was starting to understand that he used to be an architect as well. So I think there was some of that influence that was kind of
nice.
Gotcha.
Coming through as well.
Were you a pretty creative kid growing up? Were you artistic?
I'd say so. Yeah. I mean,
what was your strength? Was it computer design or was it hand design? Take us
it was all
sketching.
Yeah, it was all sort of like sketching and drawing. So, you know, I remember even like as a child, you know, I was sort of the right age as a child where, you know, we didn't as a child when I was growing up, there was no real like technology. I was pretty in that sweet spot of, iPads and iPhones came in when I was a teenager. So that then meant that, I was playing outside or I was drawing,
That's cool,
so weekends and things, like I remember, my sister or, my sister and I would probably sit at the table and we'd be drawing or whatever, and that would be fun. So I've still got old drawings of, I used to go to these different classes, and after the classes, I would sit outside and I'd be drawing like choppers and things. Cause again, like I'd be watching Orange County Choppers with my dad. So I've got like all these like furry pencil type things, and you like to draw the frames and the engines and all that kind of stuff. And then I'd be drawing the graphics and stuff,
That's so awesome.
Super.
So yeah, I mean, from a young age, it was always kind of like drawing. But then cars, bikes, characters, and things like that. And then that started to define itself in more specifically with car design itself. So
well, this is a great segue to the next question. Winning the Royal Enfield's design competition, that is pretty insane, because that is a historic company, number one, in the motorcycle industry. Let's do this. Take us through the story behind this. How did you become a part of it, and give us the whole story. I just want to hear everything from top to bottom.
So for context, I was at university from 2016. I graduated in 2020, and some people might remember there was a bit of a global pandemic that was going on in 2020.
Yeah.
I graduated into the perfect storm of that. So obviously, no companies are hiring. They're cutting staff, and it's pretty tough for everyone. I was just in this position where nothing's really going on, but my peers were sort of sat around thinking, well, I'm just going to wait this out and wait for the opportunities to come to me. And I had the total opposite. I was hungry to try and, find opportunities and make them happen. And it just so happened that through the university, Royal Enfield had created this European student competition for color demographics. So there I was thinking like, it's all going terribly. And then, as you say, one of the largest motorcycle companies in the world just so happens to be running this competition when nothing else is going on. So immediately I thought, well, this is my golden opportunity to, make an impact and be recognized by, a massive company. From August of 2020, they started this competition. There was 3 months to create, color schemes with different graphics and seat designs for the stitching of the seats. And we had the Interceptor and the Continental GT to do it on. So 3 months, about 90 days, I created 86 color schemes.
Wow.
Well, because
that's incredible.
again, I just thought this is my chance to do something I really wanted. I really wanted it. I was constantly pestering, bless him, with a guy called Tom at Royal Enfield. I was constantly emailing him about, what I was up to and trying to make sure that they were constantly aware of who I was.
That's great.
And submitted the 86 designs. And then come January 2021, they shortlisted 12. So 6 for the Interceptor and 6 for the Continental GT. 3 of my designs got shortlisted for the 12. And then 1 of them went on to win for the Continental GT. So I was absolutely elated. Yeah. But I'd managed to sort of make an impression. From there, they then invited me to Royal Enfield's headquarters in Leicester.
Sweet.
So I got to do some like filmed interviews. Meet Mark Wells, who's the chief designer for Royal Enfield. And also like a lady called Dali, who runs like the color demographics. So I then got to work with them on translating my design from 2D Photoshop into a physical color scheme on a bike. So I was able to do that over the course of 2021, and then they took the bike to EICMA in 2021, which also happened to be our 120th anniversary. So I mean, at the age of 23 to be exhibiting a work room Royal Enfield or EICMO is
Luke,
to date probably still my career highlight.
for sure. Luke, that's just one of many to come. Luke, let me ask you this. What were some of the challenges you were facing when you were putting all these designs together? Were you running into certain things that kind of made you redirect, follow through? Take us into that a little bit.
So, in terms of when I was ideating, and creating all of those different options, I wouldn't say there were challenges as such, but the thing that I was trying to, the sort of the mindset I had around it was, I didn't want to take the traditional OEM route of how I created the graphics, because if I was taking it from that approach, I thought, well, Royal Enfield could already be doing this themselves. So I tried to take it from, well, how sort of like left field can I go with this? How creative can I be and create something that arguably a little bit shocking or challenging, that, that perhaps they weren't expecting, and something that, they might not have done otherwise. So I think with that, I was then just trying to take influence from different industries. So whether it be like fashion or art or things like that, and just seeing how they do it and how I could then sort of translate that onto a bike. I mean, the color scheme that won in itself, it did have to change a significant amount to make it, because it was this quite intricate triangular pattern, which had a gradient from like a dark blue to a teal running from the front to the rear. But just the nature of getting the tessellated triangular pattern over all of the complex curves of the tank and things would have just stretched and skewed it quite a lot. So I had to sort of split it up into the flatter sections of the tank. So yeah, I mean, like, even that, it was just like a really interesting experience to learn about those sorts of things and understand, talking with the guys from the paint company, how these things are made. And again, I obviously only just graduated, so it was all like really cool learning experiences to try and figure that stuff out.
Did you feel like you found your calling?
Yeah, well, I did. I think this is where color trim and graphics is, for me, it's like just the most fun. Fundamentally, I really enjoy doing the motorcycle design, but doing the graphics and stuff is just loads of fun, because you've essentially got this blank canvas and you just get to play around with colors and shapes and things. And I think it's just really cool to try and hopefully like flatter the shape of the bike and play on those sorts of things. And I think what's cool about, well, what I like about my design in particular is the fact that from 10 meters away, you see this color gradient, which looks kind of fast. So it looks like the bike's in motion, but then the closer to it gets, the details start to appear. So you then start to see this triangular pattern that then starts to emerge. And then you get closer, and then you see that on one side, you've got the coordinates for Royal Enfield's headquarters to HNI. And then on the other side, you've got Bruntingthorpe. So again, it was kind of, there's so many like details and things like that you get to play on with the graphics. And, I just think it's really good fun.
That's cool.
Absolutely. So while you're designing, 86 different color schemes and getting feedback and talking to Tom, I think it was at Royal Enfield, you're getting active feedback, and I'm curious how that influenced your design style moving forward, and how does that play into what you're doing now at LR Design?
So I mean, so LR Design is my own company that I created. The feedback I was getting from Tom was mostly encouraging, I would say. So I mean, what I found out after the competition was, I had designed 86 schemes, but they had 180 in total. So I almost designed half of the entries they had for the Euro.
Wow.
Cow.
Wow.
That took me back a little bit. So I mean, I think, yeah, the feedback was just encouraging, and I think I'd like to say that I've always had a reasonably good work ethic. So I think doing that kind of stuff, obviously at the time I was really in need of trying to, establish myself and obviously make a good impression to a company. But yeah, I think from those days until now, working around the clock, doing these things that I fundamentally enjoy and love, it wasn't really much hassle to me. And it's energizing, really. So.
Well, what's your
and you took it seriously right out of the gate. That's, I think, a good kind of takeaway from that is it sounds like you were very enthusiastic and very serious right out of the get-go.
100%. But I think I had to be, or at least I'm grateful that the pandemic shaped me in the way that it has, because I think, as I was saying, I had peers who had the attitude of, well, I'll wait it out, and once the pandemic is over, I will then start looking and, updating my portfolio and things like that. Whereas I was thinking, well, that's the totally wrong way to be going about this. You need to be kind of
Proactive.
keeping your skills sharp and improving yourself, because by the time that, if and when this ends, it could be next year when the next set of graduates have finished. So, are you then competing against 2 years worth of graduates as well as everyone else that's lost their jobs? So I think that's where I've sort of just had this set, saying from those days, and that's that the world owes me nothing. So it's frankly, it's up to me to go out there and sort of assert myself and make the opportunities happen that I want.
Yeah.
That's refreshing.
Luke,
to
let me
hear
ask
you're
you a
not
question.
entitled.
Design is something that you've always been great at. It seems like you kind of knew at a young age where you were going. Now, pandemic passes, you've got this amazing thing that you just accomplished for Royal Enfield, and take us into the motivating factor of starting LR Design. At a young age, you've already started your own business, a small business, and take us what the process was, why you decided to go this way instead of go working for another company like a Royal Enfield or another motorcycle company. Give us a little background on that journey.
Sure. So through the pandemic, I was starting to dabble a little bit with LinkedIn. Essentially, I just completed my bachelor thesis, and I was trying to sort of show that a little bit, to hopefully get a little bit of traction and interest from the industry. And what ended up happening was a guy from the States in Boston sort of reached out and he said, I love your work, but you're not doing enough to market it. And he then started to help me networking.
Nice.
And through that, it's sort of like a fast track, but essentially through the networking, someone again from the States approached me about doing some industrial design work for him. And in doing so, that then instigated the initiative of setting up my own company. So that is then where LR Design sort of spawned. And since then, through my career, the opportunities have sort of been coming from LinkedIn. And I think, again, having that sort of like work ethic has just meant that I'd find it quite satisfying to see a more direct correlation between input of hard work and effort and then the output, in terms of the reward of these opportunities and these projects. So yeah, I think I could go and work for a large company, and I have done some contract work for large companies, which I do enjoy. But at the same time, I like the fact that I'm not necessarily just a number, and a cog in a machine as such.
Good for you, buddy.
Absolutely. Makes sense. So can you walk us through your process? So your creative process and going from an idea in your head to either a rendering or an actual real world product.
Yeah. So everything pretty much starts on paper. I mean, it's still sort of a little bit old school at this point, but yeah, I'm one for sort of just sitting with a biro and sketching things out. Also, in the last sort of two and a half years, AI did sort of kicked off quite a lot. So especially in that sort of like initial ideation phase, I've been adopting AI quite a lot. So even between the two, one of the things that I try to do with my design work, especially on motorcycles, is to draw from different industries. So I think one of the main reasons that I wanted to get into motorcycle design in the first place was I felt like when I looked at car design, a lot of things had already been done, and I felt like things were being regurgitated and copied, and it became quite repetitive. But whereas when I then looked at the motorcycle industry, things were then turning electric, then in these EV startups that are coming out, and I felt like fundamentally there was an opportunity to do things differently on a bike, even more so than with cars. So I think that, even when you've spoken with Hugo Eccles, for example, and he did the 0XP, his whole philosophy around that, and the way that, you only need those contact patches on what was the tank for your knees. And I managed to actually meet Hugo as he was launching that at Goodwood in 2019.
Cool.
So
Nice.
then he's been quite a prolific person in the beginnings of my
For
career,
sure.
because again, that entire philosophy, and then that is something that's sort of been ingrained in me going forwards. So again, I just think electric motorcycles have such an opportunity to do something different, that ice bikes can't necessarily achieve to the same extent. And that's why, whether it be sort of, sketching or doing like some AI ideation work, drawing from those new influences, being fashion, architecture,
Right.
art, and those sort of things. But beyond that, in terms of my process, generally things then go into like a Photoshop, where I'll then be refining different perspectives. So side views are a key one for bikes, but doing the 3/4 and the perspectives, and from there, things typically then go to a modeling software like Alias. So that's where you then start to really hone in on your hard points of your wheels and your frames and your bars and those sorts of things, and from there you then start to translate those ideas that you've got in 2D into a 3D space and start to really play with the sculpture of the bike. And from there, it's just a case of refining it until it's sort of ready to go.
So you're bringing your sketch into the software, and what software do you what's your favorite that you've used?
So I mean, Photoshop is the big one. I mean, Photoshop is essentially this digital sketching tool. But what's great about it is, you can go into it as much as you want. So, I could entirely replace Biro sketching with just sketching in Photoshop. And emulate that and just do some really like loose and rough sketching, or I could go in and I could try and do, really accurate and precise renderings. So like there's a real sort of spectrum as to how far into it you can go. And I think that's also where I'm now coupling it with artificial intelligence and Midjourney. Midjourney is this text to image AI tool. So when I then get to combine the two, an output for Midjourney combined with my sketching and Photoshop, I then get to speed up my process, but then also come up with new ideas that might not have, been seen or done before. Or it's a pretty cool time to be doing electric motorcycle design.
Definitely.
That's cool. You kind of answered. I had a follow up to Ben's question, but you answered it a little bit with the AI part of it and how it incorporates into your design. But there is one quick question we did want to ask you before we move forward. We've talked to different people from this industry. Some are motorcycle builders, some are designers like Hugo and build. When you envision something, are you a type of person that kind of like somebody says, hey, this is what I'm thinking? Are you the type of person that you could just put it on paper, or does it take you a little time to piece things together? Or do you already physically see what you're looking to create?
I'd say it totally varies, to be honest. There are times where someone will tell me, this is what I'm thinking, and I could be totally blank, and I just have no clue. But then part of the fun of that is then you then go on this journey of discovery. So as you're then going on that journey with them, you then find things out, and you then come up with a solution that you hadn't conceived at all. And then other times, you'll be set a brief, and immediately you go, yes, I know exactly what I'm going to do. This is exactly the vision that I have for this.
Right.
And then it's just about executing that. And to be honest, I try not to pressure myself into having the answer straight away, because I think that's also part of the fun. And again, when it comes to the AI as well, sometimes I will entirely remove it from my process creatively, and I will just do things myself.
That's cool.
But then sometimes it's then nice to do that and then go to the AI and say, well, this is what I've been working on, and then give it essentially the same sort of prompt and say, like I'm designing a certain bike, in this segment with these influences, and then see what it can come up with and how the two then compare. because sometimes it comes up with something that I'd have never conceived of doing, and it's then cool to kind of test it against myself.
Right. That makes sense. I get you. You got some memorable projects and designs. Kind of looking back at the portfolio so far, you're still such a young man, and you got the world is your oyster going forward. I mean, you're just talking to you. I'm so excited as a guy who's been in this industry for a long time. Twice your age, and just to see that there's great minds like you that are coming up. Take us a little bit into the portfolio. Which designs, projects have you been most meaningful to you? Why? And I know you've worked with some great companies, especially the EV companies out in the UK. I think ARC is one of them, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I've talked to Mark in the past. I've been trying to get him on the show, but he's a beautiful. He does beautiful design. I'm getting just comfortable with the EV side. I'm more of a petro guy, but
Sure.
there are some companies out there like him that have just are putting out beautiful machines. I mean, I can't, there's nothing I can critique. I mean, I'm like, damn, that's gorgeous. Take us a little bit into your portfolio and the projects you're proud of.
Yeah, I mean, ARC in itself was an amazing opportunity. As you say, like, frankly, there wasn't anything, and there still isn't anything really that kind of looks or compares to the ARC Vector. It's a real shame that the electric bike industry is in the way it is, in terms of the companies that are going bankrupt and whatnot. Because unfortunately, obviously, ARC went bankrupt earlier this year. To name one of a few that have had that fate. But I mean, working there was really cool. And obviously, as you say, when their Halo product is something like that, it sort of then just opens the door to be really daring and try, new ideas and things like that. So working there, sort of as my first industry job was like really liberating.
For sure.
Really great. Being sort of like a small British company just meant that I had a larger voice. So I felt like I was like really sort of helping to steer the company, with some of my ideas and my design work, which was really fun. One of the designs, it's just like a 2D like side view render that I did in 2021, was of a Royal Enfield concept, and it was somewhat influenced by an internship I did with a company called Auto Fabrica. So I don't know if you guys are aware of them, but they made like bespoke, handcrafted, custom motorcycles in the UK, and they make some of the most stunning bikes you'll ever see. So I was sort of influenced from my time there, and then I'd obviously been working on the Royal Enfield color trim and graphics competition, and I then created this concept of what a Royal Enfield could look like. And what's kind of cool about that design is even a few years on, there are still people that recognize that bike, and they then didn't realize that it was me who did it. So the bike, cool. It sort of established its own presence. And cool. There was a guy who was lecturing in China called James Hope. But he's a prolific car designer, and he had been doing some lecturing in China. And at the time when I shared this design, he then used that as an example to his students as to what good design is in terms of balance and the proportions, the details and those kinds of things. So I'd obviously not long graduated, and here he was, as an experienced, veteran designer, then using my work as an example to others.
So awesome.
It's weird things like that, are sort of pinch me
awesome.
moments almost.
Luke, let me ask you this. What's your opinion? Why do you think your passion kind of design and the things that you've been doing comes from the EV world? That's why I want to ask you this question for somebody who's kind of new to this EV world, right? Why do you feel like ARC went out? What happened there? Because his design was so beautiful. I just couldn't see something like that. Like, I've seen designs in the EV world where I'm like, how in the world? Like, that is just butt-ass ugly, right? As a motorcycle enthusiast. But to be able to see the type of work Mark was putting out, what's your opinion? Why is so many firms failing?
I think there's one word answer to it is batteries.
Batteries.
I think fundamentally battery density hasn't gotten far enough along its technological development to a point where battery range, weight, and cost can make the battery small enough so the bikes are light to be competing with ICE, your internal combustion engines, fast enough, range, and fundamentally they're expensive. So I think, unfortunately, with ARC's Vector, it's a £90,000, and that's British pounds, super bike. And whilst it looks incredible, unfortunately, it just means that because of the weight of the batteries, that then, affects the cost and the range. And then it's this sort of perfect storm of, unfortunately, it's just attributes that go against it. So I think that's why electric bikes at the moment, they need to be much smaller, and they need to be urban bikes, so when you look at, there's a small British company called Mayve. So I think that's realistically, it's sort of things like that, or even at EICMA just this week, Royal Enfield launched the Flying Flea. I think it's things like that where you're going to be riding it through town, you're going to be getting regen on the battery, it's light and it's nimble, and I think it's the right part of the spectrum to be designing electric for. I think even when you look up to the sports bikes and things, when Ducati have done their Moto e-bike, they can do maybe 8 or 9 laps, whereas the MotoGP bikes are doing 25, 26 laps.
Right.
That shows the bikes are heavier and they don't have the range, and that's just down to the batteries, unfortunately.
Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, we've heard similar explanation. That definitely makes the most sense. So,
but it's frustrating though, because, as I say, from a design perspective, I just think it could be totally liberating, but I now just fear as to how far the EV technology can go. Obviously there are a lot of legislations that have been put in for the cars in terms of where OEMs are supposed to be making, electric cars by 2030, 2035.
Right.
But, it's just difficult to see, how that is really going to pan out. And I think what's also interesting is, especially in the bike industry, we don't really have a Tesla as such. There's no real sort of bike company that's come in and really, taken hold of the industry and, is dominating it from an EV perspective, which I think is quite interesting and also telling, really.
And nobody's done a hybrid, right? Nobody's built a hybrid?
Not that I know of.
Hey,
I think
let's start a business.
It's like that one there, yeah. I think there might be a hydrogen bike or two, but again, only conceptual things. But beyond that, not sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the hybrid technology on a bike is sort of an
I mean,
interesting
if you can get, let's say, 200 miles on gas and 200 and let's say 100 or 150 on battery, I mean, that's not a bad thing. So.
And it almost would have to be a trike, though.
You have to carry
how
so
would you
much
incorporate
stuff,
all
the
that?
battery, the gas. The bike would weigh as much as a GMC full-size pickup truck, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Hey guys, the show will be back in 1 minute right after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, One Gang, tired of feeling like your butt's taking more of a beating than your bike on those long rides? Introducing Butt Buffer, the ultimate solution to saddle soreness. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. These cushions are made from medical-grade viscoelastic polymer, scientifically crafted to eliminate pressure points and keep your circulation flowing. No more numb nuts or numb butts. And here's the best part. Butt Buffer cushions are made right here in the U.S. for the last 30 years. From Harleys to Hondas, we've got a cushion to fit your ride perfectly. Plus, with styles ranging from sleek pebble polymer to luxurious sheepskin, there's a Butt Buffer for every rider's style. Get your Butt Buffer today at buttbuffer.com. That's buttbuffer.com. Your butt will thank you, and you'll ride longer and happier. We've got your butt covered.
So in this sort of topic, how do you see technology, whether it be AI or different tools, how do you see that shaping the future of motorcycle design?
That's a great question. I mean,
what are the fun things that twirl around in your head before you go to sleep at night? You're thinking, man, that'll be cool when...
Well, fundamentally, I think artificial intelligence is and will change design full stop. I think it already is. And I think it's, as it is with all industries, I think companies and people in general are just in this sort of fight or flight mindset and attitude towards it. So, people are sort of afraid to embrace it, and they don't know how to embrace it, or, what they're doing with it. Yeah. But to me, I think that's the really liberating and exciting part about this is, obviously I'm still sort of like new and early into my career, and I think, well, there's new technology coming. I may as well be embracing it and adopting it early.
Luke, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Just a quick question.
Sure.
I apologize to interrupt you. Do you think, and I'm speaking from old school, okay? I'm talking about the older guys, your dad's age and all that stuff. Do you think that AI is going to hurt the creativity of people? What I mean is they're going to rely so much on AI to be able to give them the final product that it's going to erase the people who have come before, the ones who designed airplanes and cars and this and bikes and all this stuff. That came from here to the paper, exactly what you do. But my concern is I know AI will make technology-wise better, but will it really make creativity better? Or will it just bunch everything into one, so everything just like it is now, where every car looks the same, all the new bikes looks the same, there's no individuality because it's just, here you go, here's the product.
Agree. I love this question. So this is where it's a case of input output. So when people are designing these sort of iterative cars that look the same, you have to ask, well, what is the input? And the chances are it's probably someone from marketing that has said, we need to play it safe and we need to do something that looks unoffensive and so on. And that means, your parameters and regulations mean that the car will look the same. When it comes to AI, so with Midjourney, you can put in a text prompt and then you can add images. And this is where what I'm really passionate about is pushing the AI as far as I can get it to point to where perhaps even the images become useless, in terms of, if I wanted a red sports bike, it's going to look like a Ducati or it's going to look like a Honda.
Right.
And then that means that the designs that I produce are not going to look very, very innovative or creative. Right. So that's where I'm really insistent on using inputs that are in turn a reflection on my creativity. So that's why, I'm taking inspiration from nature or fashion or product design. And it's those influences that help me to steer away from conventional, looking bikes of today and try and push things in a challenging direction. So I think that's where there's the stigma around AI that, it's just regurgitating, existing stuff. But I think you have to see that as a reflection on the person that has created that piece, because all they have asked for is a red Ducati. So that's all they will ever get.
Gotcha.
So that's where, as I say, it's a stigma, and it's something that, once people have that mindset switch and they say, well, how can I actually be more creative with it? Other than me sitting here and drawing on the paper, there isn't a huge amount of difference between that and the AI itself, because I'm still fundamentally using the same creativity and the same influences. It's just being channeled in a different medium.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I think the output point that you make is right on the money. And it's interesting too, if you think about innovation and design, how similar, like mentioning an auto manufacturer, for example, they're making all these cars that look so similar. It's like, what fun is that? What innovation is there in that? And if you're able to create those proper prompts and going down the avenue of generative design, where you're basically giving it the thresholds and the points where you need it to operate between, you're able to, you tell us about your, what are your thoughts on generative design?
Well, again, I think this is where it's the future. I think it speeds up my process quite a lot as well. So, again, if I was sketching and using Photoshop, it would take, perhaps to do a couple of views of a motorcycle, it might take a few days. But whereas through through AI and prompting, I could be exponentially, outputting higher quality work much faster. So I could then have perhaps a number of design themes of quality in a significantly short space of time, as opposed to just doing one by hand. So I think that's where, it's really, where it could be really valuable to design companies to start, utilizing it. To increase quality of output, but also then the pace at which that is being produced as well. So again, it's just the stigma that I think these companies, they need to sort of try and be a little bit more creative with the way that it's being used. And I think when they do, it will be really liberating. And I hope that that then, creates some better looking and more original looking designs.
Gotcha. Balancing aesthetics, performance, rider experience. Take us into the process of when you design, what are some of the challenges to balance all three of those things?
Well, I think what's particularly unique with motorcycle design compared to cars is obviously the fact that you've got a rider. So immediately, the relationship between the rider and the bike is something that you fundamentally don't have in a car, to the same extent anyway. So I don't know. I find that in itself like a really interesting challenge to make sure that fundamentally the bikes in themselves look like a piece of sculpture, but obviously they have to function. So yeah, I mean, generally, the companies that I work for when I'm doing the motorcycle designs, they provide me with a package where they're telling me about the different motors, the batteries, then shocks and forks and things like that, and they sort of already start to establish those hard points, and then it's my job to sort of sculpt around those. There's obviously some elements of play where perhaps I can ask for certain things to be tweaked, but you're sort of having to try and dance between the lines of these things and strike a balance that works for what they're building, because obviously they're coming at it from a very blinkered point of view in terms of trying to create something that is cost effective, that could be manufactured. And I'm coming from a arguably a more emotive perspective of wanting to design something that is exciting and that looks great. So
of course,
it's always like a fun sort of duality of tension, let's say, that you've got to try and work within.
That's cool.
Yeah, to walk the line. So to get into your personal design philosophy a little bit, you definitely have a distinct design philosophy, and you really push the boundaries. So how do you define success in your own designs, and what criteria do you use to evaluate your work?
See, that's a really interesting question, because this year in particular, a few people have independently of one another said to me that they can tell that I have a style. So they can tell when they look at one of my designs that it's mine, which had taken me back, because I had always thought that...
You didn't realize that?
No. It was one of those things where I thought, it's probably going to take me, 10 years plus or something to get into, really embed myself in the industry, and to a point where, people are starting to recognize, or even for myself to try and find a style that, I feel comfortable with. But I think it's a case of, I don't know whether it's because of the use of AI, because essentially more of my time since graduating has been influenced by AI than my time outside without it. So it's become, very ingrained in my creative process. And I think that's only make things, better in terms of, I really feel like I'm trying to challenge, and this is now where the bar is constantly moving, where I'm thinking that I really want this next design to be even more shocking, or, push the boundaries even further to a point where, nothing looks like this at all.
Right.
And I think that's where sometimes as well, there are designs that I'll dismiss and think, that's no good. And then I'll come back to it a week later and think, oh, wow, okay, that's really cool. And I totally missed it, because I'm almost numb to some of the concepts that I'm creating, just because of the pace at which, some of these things can be created with AI. So I think just fundamentally though, I think with the way the motorcycle design is, I find it quite fussy. When I didn't, obviously EICMA is going on as we speak. And when I've seen some of the photos of some of the things that have been launched, there's some really nice designs there, but then there are other things where it's like there are folds or creases in places where they're just not really necessary. And I think when it comes to my style, I try to reduce the amount of visual fuss wherever possible. So, I try to make sure that, the lines on the motorcycle flow, and almost treat it as if it was a car design. When you look at the first brand that came to mind was someone like Aston Martin, but it's something that feels like the side of the car feels like it's under tension, where all the lines and the folds have purpose and meaning. And I think that's something that I'm trying to translate into the bikes. So yeah, to try and have this sort of minimalist approach to it and remove fuss where I can.
Luke, let me ask you this.
That's excellent.
I mean, I know you're still young in the game. You've done a lot for a young man. Obviously, you've worked with some great companies. You have your own business at this point in time. How do you envision the future of motorcycle design at this stage of your career?
This is a big question.
I know.
So I think there's going to be, I hope that there's going to be a way where EV, internal combustion, and other things like hydrogen can all live symbiotically. So what I think needs to happen is I think we need to design for purpose as opposed to just have this blanket, EV solution for all, because I fundamentally don't think it works. And I think you're trying to shoehorn technology into segments of bike where it doesn't belong. So I think when it comes to sort of the future of, motorcycling, if you've got a sports tourer bike, having an EV battery powertrain in it is the wrong approach, in my opinion. I think that is where, you have your internal combustion engine, because that's suited to that bike. And again, when it comes to cities and urban areas, that's where you can have your nippy little electric motorcycle to get around town. Right. Because, of all the regen and it's light, and, you don't have to travel so far. So I think that is the way that I think it should be going. And I hope it does. Because again, I think whilst I enjoy designing electric bikes, I still, the bike that I want to be buying first isn't electric. I think the emotive relationship you have with an engine is unparalleled. Like you can't get that from EV.
Thank you for saying, and I'm like, awesome. Then you truly are a biker, man. No, it's okay. Listen, it is what it is. The truth.
So I mean, yeah, I think you simply can't replicate that on electric, and I think that's why you have to design for the right application. So yeah, I'm excited fundamentally.
That's cool.
I'm excited to see where it all goes.
Me too.
So yeah, let's see.
What a great answer, man. Designed for purpose. That absolutely seems to hit the nail on the head. So,
I hope it translates beyond bikes as well, car as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is so stale these days. It just, they put a lot of horsepower into the same thing, and I don't know, there's just nothing out there that makes me, when I look at something these days, it's just like, oh, there's one that looks just like it, and there's one passing through that looks just like it. It's just like, it seems like creativity has left. That's why I love talking to people like yourself. Is just there's so much creative in that brain of yours, so it's beautiful to be able to hear it. I hope our listeners are enjoying this as much as we are.
I hope so. It'll be interesting to see as well. I think this is the other thing that I sort of take for granted at times, is because I'm constantly immersed in this world, is then when you then sort of lift up and you perhaps talk to people that are in that world and you're constantly in that sphere, it's then interesting to hear those perspectives as well.
Right, of course.
And see how the two sort of align or don't, and those differences.
Yeah. Yeah, love it or hate it. I probably wouldn't ever buy one, but the Cybertruck, I think, is probably one of the most innovative things I've seen on the road
Really?
in years.
Why?
And it's
Why? Yeah,
just
why
the-
did you?
What's so
because
innovative
strictly
about
from
it?
strictly from a design standpoint. When have you seen, like, again, I wouldn't buy one. I don't,
I
like,
think
it's not my
my
cup
my
of
personal
tea.
opinion of this truck is I think Elon Musk played a joke on people and he said, I'm going to design the world's ugliest vehicle, and all the people who hate me and bash me are going to be the ones that are going to buy this vehicle, and I'm going to overcharge them for this piece of shit. And this is what's happening. I mean, that's the stuff. You're a designer. Both of you guys are, artists
Right.
in what you do.
That's
Not
exactly
me.
my point.
That's the truck I used to draw when I was 2, and it's like,
Right.
and somebody's
Yeah.
actually paying $150,000 for these things. I mean, that blows me away.
That's exactly my point, though. Love it or hate it, it's different. So I like that it's different. I don't, not even speaking to the design itself,
I like
but
different.
I
but
like
not
that there
different.
is something, but that's all I'm saying. I just like that there's something different on the road. Like, that's cool. Again, love it or hate it. I'm not a fan, but it's nice to see something that's kind of changing and pushing boundaries, even if it's not in the direction that I like or that I want to go or that's my taste even. It's just nice to see that somebody is innovating on the road on 4 wheels.
Sorry, man. I don't mean to bash you. You're my brother, and I love you, but sorry, man. I can't even agree with that. I mean, to me, that truck is just pathetic. I don't know what it is. I love Ellen. I mean, I know he's a genius, and I will not criticize anything he does, but my goodness, that thing is a joke.
It's different, though.
Different in
So what I
life.
think,
it's
Crazy.
still go with it.
what's interesting about it is, from a design perspective, the shocking part is not the design itself for me, but it's the segment of vehicle it is. So because it's a pickup truck and it looks that way, that's shocking. But fundamentally, the reduced design aesthetic. If you go back to the 70s, there are a lot of concept cars, like the Strock Zero, for example, which were all very wedge shades, where the bonnet through the windshield was all, single profile. So I think the design isn't shocking, but again, when you then translate that sort of supercar, concept car, 70s wedge aesthetic to a 2020 pickup truck, that's then when it's like, holy crap, okay, that's shocking because it's something that you wouldn't expect. But I think also the great thing about design, though, is the fact that, that truck was launched years ago, and until today, it's obviously only been on the road for a handful of months, and people are still sort of captivated by it, and it's memorable. And I think that is a sign that, no one's in the middle and indifferent about it. They are all for it.
You either love it or you hate it. Agreed.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that is the sign of successful design.
Good point. Good point.
And again, I'm not for it by any means. I just like to see
No,
that
don't
there's
lie.
something
Don't lie.
new.
We got you, man.
I started that off by saying, love it or hate it. I would not get one, but it is cool to see something different on the road. And to that point, my 10-year-old saw one on the interstate and goes, "Oh, what is that?" Let me tell you about it. Okay,
give Bo a big hug for me for saying
that. Speaking of 10-year-old, what advice would you give for aspiring designers or enthusiasts who want to break into the world of design?
Just keep creating, really. What first came to mind was a couple of years ago, I was invited back to my old school, before the school I went to before university, and they're struggling at the moment where the students have quite low ambitions. So they set up this initiative to bring former students back to the school to talk to the students and show them the kind of career opportunities that are out there. If you sort of you look up and you start discovering these things. So I think to your point, I think it's just a case of being creative, and I think just trying new things, really. I was obviously fortunate that I found what I wanted to do from an earlier age. Perhaps that was obviously through the osmosis of my dad influencing me with motorcycles and cars and design and that kind of thing. But I think until you try different things, you're not going to know what it is that you like or don't. And so long as you don't pressure yourself to have that answer by a certain point, because I think if you start to pressure yourself to have things figured out by a certain age or milestone, I think that's when you're going to perhaps struggle to do so. So yeah, just experiment, try new things, and keep creating. If becoming a designer is definitely the passion that you want to pursue.
That's great advice.
For sure.
Solid.
All right, buddy.
So
go ahead. Sorry.
we want to do just mentioning the last kind of thing about legacy or impact. What do you hope to leave behind through your work?
So this is where my career as a designer has stemmed. From graduating, it stemmed from LinkedIn, and I think this is where particularly by using LinkedIn primarily to begin with, doing the mentoring is something that I'm particularly passionate about. So, I had a mentor, a guy called Steve in Boston, who helped me to network and promote myself. And I think that's where I'm now really passionate about my legacy being helping others. So already I've helped 10 people who are, graduates and students, find their career opportunities. So that's something that I take a lot of pride in, is doing what I can to help those that come next, because, I've doing what I can to help the guidance to get to this point. And I think it's only fair that I try and pass that on to the next. So I think that's why it's
great.
It's
That's so awesome, Luke.
if everyone did a little bit to help, someone else, that positive impact, and that could be passed on to everyone. One of the guys that I've been mentoring over the summer, he told me about an interview he's got coming up for a large car company in the UK. So it's things like that it's then like, it's nice to know that it's bigger than just me at this point, and
Absolutely.
I get to help others.
That's awesome, Luke.
Yeah, that's
listen, let me ask you this, for people listening and with the mentoring thing through LinkedIn, how can people get a hold of you? What social media platforms are you on? Give us that. We're going to link that into the notes section so people can just reach out directly from the actual podcast. But take us a little bit into how people can contact you.
Yeah, amazing. So Instagram, it's Luke Robbins Design, all one word. And then on LinkedIn, if you just search for Luke Robbins, hopefully I'll be one of the first to come up.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, if there's anyone that is, you don't even have to be sort of design or creatively sort of aspiring in terms of what you want to do. But if there's anything I can do to help people, I'm always more than happy to do so. I think it's just great to be talking about with different people from around the world and sort of discuss passions. I think that's something that's always just energized me, is I've got such a passion for my career that when I get to speak with other people that have that same energy about their thing, it doesn't really matter what it is. I love having those sorts of conversations. So anyone is more than welcome to sort of reach out and let's talk.
And we love getting people like you on our show because we feel the same way. We this whole focus of the One Gang Worldwide podcast is to inspire others to continue grabbing the torch and taking it to the future generations for the motorcycle industry. One of the sad parts, what's happening around the world is less and less kids are getting involved in this stuff as they're coming up. Less and less kids are getting their hands dirty, trying to fix things or build things. It's I understand we live in a technical world where technology has taken that part away, but it's people like yourself and other people that we've had on that we hope that it generates with one or two people, and they can either push it them for themselves with their kids or something else, because the motorcycle industry is a special industry. It's small compared to the rest of all the industries, but it's a special industry because nobody does this or outside of passion. This is a passion. This is a lifestyle. This is everything that how you want to live your life in the purest way. And it's the only thing that really people will do. Maybe they don't make a lot of money doing it, but they do it because they love it. So I love what you're doing, man, and keep up that amazing work. We're going to get into the speed round questions coming up next. So buckle up and
Well said for that. Before that, just well said. I mean, I think it's incredibly admirable, what you guys are doing, and it's nice that the motorcycling community, whilst it is small, has you guys in it, and the way that you're able to champion people and shine a spotlight on some of the right guys and girls, and I think that's amazing, and we need more people like you that can expose how cool and amazing motorcycling is, so we can hopefully bring more people in along the way. So yeah, well done to you guys.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for those kind words.
Thanks, Luke. Looking forward to, we've only been doing this for a year. I'm looking forward to 5 years and 10 years down the road, and looking back and seeing the different guest journeys and the different lens to look into these.
Hey, Luke, I got a quick question for you before Ben gets into the speed round. Would it be a possibility if maybe you can sign one of your designs for us and scan it and email it to us so we can print it out and post it in our office? I think it'd be an honor to have that from awesome. You and have it hanging over us to give us the appreciation that because you're going to change the world for the better, and I see that in you, not only as a young man, but for speaking as an older guy, but also just your passion and your drive. You can see it, man. You light up when you talk, and I love that. So hopefully, if you can find a cool design that you want, sign it to Ben and Serge, One Gang Worldwide, and email it to us, man, because we'll hang it proudly in our office.
Absolutely, that'd be a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
heck yeah.
Definitely. No, we can sort that out.
All right, awesome, man. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. Let's get to know you a little bit on the crazy level.
Here we go.
All right. 2 minutes on the clock. You ready? All right. What's the best motorcycle you've ever owned or ridden? Or your favorite?
Bloody hell. Okay. Best bike I've ever ridden is going to have to be the Triumph Trident, because again, I'm on the more inexperienced side of things. So yeah.
Good, honest answer.
All right. If you could have any superpower while riding, which would it be?
Fearlessness. I mean,
man, at 26, I think you got it.
Okay, so if you haven't ridden much, the next one is a little tricky. It's the best place you've ever ridden and why? Or if it's easier to answer, what's your top place you want to go to?
I don't know if it's the top place, but there's the, I think it's the Highway 500 around Scotland. It just seems like scenically like very pretty. The weather's probably not going to be perfect, but equally, I've always wanted to come to the States and move to the States. And I'm sure there's one or two amazing roads out there that I'd love tearing up a bike on.
There's a couple.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. You ever come to Florida, if you come visit us, you let us know you're coming down here. I've got a couple of bikes. You jump on, man. Ben and I will take you on some good, cool rides, okay?
All right. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. All right. What is your guilty go-to pleasure for an alcoholic beverage? And if you don't drink, what's your go-to snack?
I mean, guilty pleasure in terms of a drink. It'd probably be something like an espresso martini or something in a girly glass.
Those are good.
Girly glass. Cool. All right. If you could time travel, which era would you visit and why?
This one keeps me up at night. The game one I'd have to say would be like Egypt when the pyramids were being built, because I'm always like, how the hell were these things built? Like, yes. Because it's the same thing with like Stonehenge. When you look at where the blocks were, taken from and traveled, transported, how are they with that precision? What were they really used for? That kind of thing. I'd love to know. That'd have to be my go-to. Yeah, sure.
Definitely. Great answer. Favorite motorcycle movie of all time?
Bloody hell. I don't know. What's the recent one with Tom Hardy and Austin Butler?
The Riders, something Riders.
Is it the Riders?
Yeah, I know which one. The one that was just out in the theater.
I enjoyed that one. We need more biking movies though,
I agree, man. I agree.
Never had too many.
For sure.
The Bike Riders.
The Bike Riders.
The Bike Riding. There we go. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. It it's a different end of the spectrum to the culture and that I'm in, because I'm more interested in sports bikes and things. But at the same time, I think as a movie,
But
it's still pretty
those
cool.
bikes were so beautiful, man. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely,
That's
yeah.
my
It's
that's my
like,
passion. The old stuff. So.
yeah.
Heck yeah. All right, favorite or who was your movie crush when you were a teenager all those years
Yeah,
ago?
last year.
Great question. Probably Scarlett Johansson,
Scarlett
someone like that.
Johansson.
I mean,
That's good. Good choice.
Good.
Good.
All right, if you could meet and have dinner with one person, past or present, who would it be?
Cool. See, there's a yeah. It's how you cut that down into one. One of the first answers was this guy. For those that are listening,
Rossi.
can't see the image, but yeah, Valentino Rossi. I think that would be a pretty incredible evening of just being sat at all. To be honest,
Luke, you know what's amazing for us because obviously we're in the States and but we have had a lot of people from the industry from the UK side and Spain and Italy and just in Europe in general. And how many people have said Rossi, huh, Ben? It's pretty crazy. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's amazing how influential. See, we don't know that, we know that he's a famous and great motorcycle racer, but we didn't understand how many people he influenced through such a long period of time.
Mm-hmm. It's quite profound, isn't it? Really,
it is.
I mean, even there was a stat in terms of the number of the podiums that he's achieved in his career, and you look at those that follow him, and they're less than half. He's got 199 podiums, and you just think about the sheer dominance and class that he's shown over such a long time, and now the fact that he can go into endurance racing in GT cars and still be competitive and winning. The fact that he's not then just balanced to two wheels, but did the Ferrari tests in 2011, 2008. Just shows how talented he is. But then also fundamentally, he just seems like an amazing person. The charm and the charisma that he shows. It just seems like an amazing guy.
Definitely be fun to have dinner with.
Absolutely.
All right, one law you would change if you were president to impact the motorcycle community.
Well, the obvious one would be that everyone has to own a bike. I mean, I think
nice.
I think a law that would be good is that everyone should at least ride a bike. I would say for something like 6 months, because I think when you're on the bike and you're driving through cars and you can see people on their phones and they're sort of swerving between lanes or that kind of thing, it immediately makes you feel quite vulnerable, and just the level of awareness you have to have whilst you're riding is something that you simply don't need to have in a car. And I think that everyone would be better drivers just from having that experience on two wheels.
Great answer.
Yeah, that's a great answer. We haven't gotten that one before.
No, that's a great
that makes
answer.
a heck of a lot of sense.
It's just something I'm always conscious of,
Of course, you have to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm glad that I had the scooter at 16 before I learned to drive. And I wanted a bike before doing my driving test.
Were you on the back of your dad's bike at a young age?
Honestly, not really. No.
Okay.
I sort of wanted to. Never had the gear. So the first time on a bike on my own was the Husqvarna motocross bike that I had as a child.
Okay, if you could get up on stage and sing or jam with one band, who would it be?
Please. I'm interested in. I'm interested to hear what your music love is.
So, from the age of 13, my favorite band has always been Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters.
Yes.
It's amazing how many people Foo Fighters have influenced. It's crazy how many people come on and say Foo Fighters.
Wow. Okay. Again, my dad, I remember he sat me and my brother down in the living room and had MTV playing with Foo Fighters on, and was like, yeah, you can leave when you stop enjoying this. And I just sat there for a good hour or so, just listening to all the Foo Fighters tracks.
So your dad sounds cool, dude.
So yeah.
All right. So you might not have had an opportunity to pull any pranks yet on fellow riders. So what is your favorite prank that you've seen in the riding community?
Maybe yes.
Right. I've,
Do you ride with
I've
other
come-
guys, or do you ride by yourself when you ride?
I ride with another guy. He has two bikes, and we got to ride through London
Nice.
over the summer a few times, which is pretty good.
Sweet.
His bikes, he had a Indian Scout
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and a Trans T100 Bonneville. So
Awesome.
I was on the Bonneville, he was on the Scout, and they're particularly loud bikes. So everyone in London is obviously turning around and seeing what earthquake's going on behind them.
Okay. You know what we say here is loud pipes save lives.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. What is the most memorable, whether funny or scary, night or place you've ever spent the night on a road trip?
My brother and I went to Scotland. We went to Glasgow, and
Nice.
yeah, we went to see a Coldplay concert. So it's not necessarily scary, but just like the hotel that we were supposed to be staying in was just not what it was advertised as. So we were supposed to spend the night, and it was a good probably 7 or 8 hour drive to get there, which I'd done most of myself. And then after the concert, it's late in the evening, and we got to the hotel room and was like, we're not staying here. So we then just drove home. So we did Scotland and back in the day, for like 23 hours. So it was a pretty long day. But I think the funny thing is, though, for you guys, that's probably going from like Miami to Orlando, it's
Right. I know, man. I know. It's so true, right? It's so true. Yeah, you're pretty much right. It's like Miami to Orlando is 4 hours,
4 hours?
4.5 hours. Yeah.
Mhm. All right. If you could challenge anybody to a motorcycle race, who would it be?
Go after the top. Go after Rossi. You got him, man. My money's on you.
I don't know. Rossi would be amazing. The other person, I mean, going to like Rossi's ranch time and racing him would be awesome. The other person that came to mind was Casey Stoner. Like, I think he's not underrated it by any means, but I just think the achievements that he's got in the Premier class of racing I don't feel like they quite equate to how talented he was. It's almost like in Formula One, someone like Ayrton Senna, with 3 world championships, it doesn't quite balance out how talented, they were. So I think,
That's a great
if I had the
point.
chance to go on track with someone like Casey Stoner,
Great
bloody
answer.
hell.
Great answer. Yep.
That would be cool. All right. Last dinner ever. What would it be?
Steak.
Hey.
American steak. Yeah, absolutely. Medium rare. Peppercorn sauce. Yeah.
Which cut? Were you ribeye guy or filet?
I don't think they have ribeye in outside of the States.
And there's a few ribeyes I've had in London. Yeah.
Which is the cut that they don't have that we only have here in the States? There is one. I know
the
there
same
is.
cows.
I know.
know.
Different cuts.
Right,
They don't call
right.
it. Sorry,
like
man.
different-
When our
yeah,
province
different
side, we'll
names, sure.
river steak and we'll see what's on the menu that I don't have in the UK.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Different names. That makes sense.
that one up.
All right. Okay, so besides the One Gang Worldwide podcast, what's your other go-to podcast? And if you're not a podcast guy, what other kind of content do you enjoy?
So other than One Gang, the other podcast I listen to is it's called Modern Wisdom by Chris Williamson. So he's a UK guy that lives out in Austin, Texas, and it's more of like a self-help, self-improvement type podcast where he speaks to scientists and various philosophical type people, and it's all about sort of being a better sort of version of yourself, as cliche as that might sound. But it's quite sort of motivating to listen to.
Okay, it's good to know.
And it's
Yeah, I
called
definitely
Bottoms.
recommend it.
All right, thank you for that.
What
That's
is
cool.
it? What is the name of it?
Chris Williams, all right?
It's Modern Wisdom.
Modern Wisdom. Yeah. Okay. I thought you said Bottom Wisdom. I was like, I haven't
Oh,
heard of that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, we're quite.
Yeah, that's a great show.
I'm gonna
We'll
do it
definitely
right
link
now.
that up.
Modern
That guy
Wisdom,
is-
right?
He's currently on tour, and he's going to be in London at the end of November, and I paid for a VIP ticket to meet him afterwards.
Nice.
So I'm
cool.
quite
I'd love to
excited.
meet
Yeah.
him.
All right, I
Yeah.
got it.
He's
Yeah,
a
it'll be
very,
good.
very bright guy. He's definitely.
I
That's a great
just
show.
followed him on Apple, so I'm gonna start listening to him. I need something like
Nice. Yeah, I listened to a few of those.
got
They're good. Hey, man, you made it through. You survived the speed
Amazing.
round.
Just about.
Luke. Great job, buddy. Great job. I mean, we're so honored to have you on, and keep up
Yeah,
the
we are.
amazing work, my man. Just keep dreaming, keep doing your thing, and yeah, you're knocking this thing out of the park at an early age, and it's just exciting for us old guys to see the great young guys coming up, man, and trying to make this industry and continue the trend of building beauty and design and everything else. So we love what you're doing, and we're gonna follow your journey. I hope maybe have you back on in a year or so, see where your company's at and the crazy stuff you've done since.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you both. And yeah, it's been fun to listen in, and now to actually be on the podcast as well. It's kind of surreal. So no, let's definitely keep in touch.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing, as you guys are saying, where you guys get to in the next sort of 5-10 years. And hopefully we can get back in touch and do a couple more episodes in that time as well.
Yeah, no, hopefully about it. We definitely will. You're doing way too many cool things, man. We're looking forward to following along.
No doubt, no doubt.
Amazing.
Right
no,
on,
I
Luke.
really appreciate it.
Happy holidays
Thank
to
you,
you
brother.
and your
We appreciate
family.
you.
Yes, likewise. Thanks, guys.
We'll talk later.
Thank you.